This video is to show you what I have done with the dust collection system for my wood shop within my overall workshop. And I thought I'd start by showing you the dust collector. I bought this and a bunch of fittings and things a few weeks ago on Craigslist. And what I've done is I've installed it up above the wood shop but below the ceiling of the overall workshop structure. And that's it here. It's a Delta model, and what I've done is put a 6-inch flexible hose on it that goes down below into the wood shop. By default, most dust collectors come with one of these adapters, which gives you two 4-inch inlets into the main 6-inch, but I've replaced that with a 6-inch pipe. You get better flow rate, you get better dust collection if you can keep your dust collection pipes as large as possible until you get closer to your tool. So I've got that 6-inch piece of flex pipe in there going down into the dust, down into the wood shop. And also over there, this here is an automatic switch system which is wired to all the blast gates down in the wood shop, and the blast gates are what control whether the dust pipe is open or not to whatever tool you're using. They're all connected with a switch back to this thing, and whenever it detects that a blast gate is open, that will automatically turn on the dust collector. So the dust collector only turns on when you open a blast gate, and it closes when you shut it. So let's go downstairs and I'll show you the dust collection system in the wood shop. Okay, so just a little bit of background. The reason I'm a little bit particular about this dust collection, or part of it I blame on when I was growing up. My dad was an avid woodworker at home. And built a huge amount of stuff. He did a lot of renovation to our house, but he used Australian hardwood, which creates an incredible amount of fine dust, and never really had a good dust collection system in his shop. And consequently, our bikes and everything, everything that I ever wanted out of his wood shop was always covered in dust. So whenever I wanted to go for a ride, typically the bike was covered in dust, and it kind of got old and sort of irritated me. So I decided when I had my wood shop, I'd put in a good dust collection system, or as good as I could do it. So that's a little bit background as to why this is here. But anyway, continuing on from up above, right up here is where the flexible hose attaches onto what is then steel pipe, spiral pipe it's called. It's quite a strong pipe that resists implosion. If you use just regular ventilation pipe, that's not very good in a vacuum situation. It will tend to collapse. So spiral pipe is what you want to use in a dust collection system as much as possible. It's quite expensive, but I was lucky again to find somebody selling a bit for cheap on Craigslist, which I picked up, and I've used most of it in here to build this system out. But yeah, from above, it comes down through the roof of the wood shop, and then it wires off one 6-inch pipe headed along that wall, and the other 6-inch pipe headed down there. And I'll show you a few of the tools I have connected to or how I have it set up right now. And this is just the very early stages, and this is obviously going to evolve as I complete the shop. So this is a spare hose right now, which I haven't got set. It's for future use. I don't know what it's going to be, but I've set it up there because I think I'm probably going to want to use dust generating tools. Mostly along this wall is where I envisage most of that happening, and this wall along here I envisage mostly being my bench top, which I'm thinking is probably going to be a bit less dust intensive than over here. Coming along here is my primary miter saw, and what I've built is this a dust shroud. Again, it's just my first version, and I'm going to evolve it as we go along. But what you can see here's the actual blast gate, and this is the switch on the blast gate which connects to that smart control box up above. And when you open this blast gate, the whole system will turn on. So on the chop saw, on my miter saw, I've got that this shroud in the back has a port down below it, which obviously sucks out a good majority of the dust. And then there's also this additional flex hose which goes down into that same 4-inch port for dust that gets captured up above the blade. So this is a big dust generator in the shop, and it's nice. You can see I've only just put this in, and down below there there's a bunch of sawdust, and that's just a tiny amount. That's only just a day or two's worth. This can just be overwhelming. And before that I was using a shop vac attached to this, and it would help, but it still let quite a bit out. So I'm glad to have this set up now with with this system. It's kind of what I always wanted there. Over here in the corner, and this might not be its permanent location, this is called a floor sweep. And I never heard of a floor sweep before, or not in this terminology anyway. The floor sweep, what you do is when you turn the system on, here's the blast gate for it. When I turn it on, it starts sucking up from this thing down here. And what you can do is you can sweep dust with a broom, any loose dust that gets around the place, as it will. You can sweep it into there and it'll suck it all up. Just so it saves you sort of brush and dust panning it if you do that. I'm not sure this is going to be the final location for the floor sweep, but that's where I've got it set up for now, and I do plan to make use of it as time goes along. Over here, in the middle of the shop, this is the biggest dust generator at this point, is my table saw. This is a 10-inch Delta Unisaw, about 20-25 years old, reasonably popular. It's not the more expensive model, but it has a really nice fence. It's a great saw, runs very smoothly, makes a lot of dust. So what I've done is here's the dust collection hose for it. I've got it coming down from the middle of the ceiling because you do want just a lot of space around the table saw. So obviously just having this right up against the wall would limit some of its capability. So I've got it set up to hang off from the centre of the ceiling. And underneath it, I fabricated some custom ducting that takes it from the dust hole or dust slot on the bottom of the saw. These saws didn't come pre-configured for a good dust collection setup, but they had a slot down there. So what I did is I got some sheet metal and fabricated slot opening that then converts back to 4-inch spiral pipe before we get to here. And here's the blast gate for it. So that's a big thing in of itself, to try and reduce the amount of dust that this guy generates, because it can be prolific when you're doing table saw work. I do, over on this wall over here, I have two more pipes coming down. There's one in the corner over there, and there's one here. That one's not in use yet. I've got it there till I figure out what I want to do with it. This one here right now is my multi-purpose pipe. What it is, it's a 4-inch spiral pipe coming down the blast gate, and then I've got it switched over to 2.5-inch, and then several of my tools around here I have set up so that I can connect and disconnect the 2.5-inch hose. If you come over here, I don't know how if you can see over here, I don't know how practical this is going to be yet, but I've hooked up a 2.5-inch fitting here with this piece of plywood on the side of the drill, and then that comes down to 1.5 inches, I think, of this pipe. For when you're doing drilling, it's surprising when you're doing drilling things, especially with Forstner bits and drilling big holes. This just makes a mess. So I've set this up so if I'm doing something which is a lot of repetitive drilling and making a lot of crap, I can just hook up this guy and suck the dust away. I've got that set up with one of my dad's. It's a rare earth magnet and a piece of wire to try and get it sort of where it needs to be, wherever the level of the workbench is. So that's set up with this this hose here. So I'll take that out, and that comes out quite easy. This is adaptable. And over here is my bench sander, or belt sander. I don't know exactly what the sander I bought. When I bought it, it didn't come with the fence that hold pieces on very well. So what I've done is I fabricated this fence up with some metal posts and a piece of wood on the back. And on this end here I put on a fitting, which is again one of these 2.5-inch fittings, so you can, when it's running, the dust tends to, the belt spins this way and the dust will go down into this this little suction point down here. So I can use the belt sander and hook it up there. This circular disc I can also use as a dust point there for it, so I can now capture most of the dust off that sander. And also this planer is the same thing. It also comes with the ability to, it can be very prolific. It's not really dust, it's more like wood chips with this, because it planes it off. But that's also set up with a 2.5-inch inlet there, so that when I'm doing planing down wood, that can be hooked up and switched on, and away we go. So I've got a couple other things I am still going to do with this. I've got a jointer, also known as what my dad would call a buzzer, that I bought. And I'm going to get that set up adjacent to the table saw and hooked up so that it can be it's also it's like the planer. It's a prolific generator of wood chips, so I'm going to set that up. But essentially, that's a key overview of the dust collection system that I've installed in my shop, and thought I'd give you guys just a bit of an overview of what it is. Thanks.